Hi there, this is John Wilkinson again from History Made Easier, and this is a presentation that sets out to look at the way in which the Nazis dealt with those who opposed their regime. And in so doing, we shouldn't just think about the leaders of the banned political parties, the trade unionists and the like, important though they were. We should also think about the 70% of voting Germans who didn't vote for the Nazis in the November 1932 election, the last truly free election. And that figure was only reduced to 56% in the election of 1933, in which the Nazis did their best to control the vote. For as well as preventing organised opposition, ordinary Germans needed to be kept in line. Now let me briefly explain these three institutions, the SS, the SD and the Gestapo. The SS was many things, but in this context it oversaw all matters regarding security. The SD focused on intelligence gathering. In this way, they supported the SS and the Gestapo. And the Gestapo's role was to search out opponents and eliminate opposition, as well as deal with groups that the Nazis directly opposed, so that they were responsible, for example, for the Jewish problem, at least until the SS took the lead with the ghettos and the death camps. The SS and the Gestapo had unlimited powers to search houses, arrest people without charge, and send them to concentration camps, even to execute them. They could also confiscate their property. The SS was responsible only to Hitler, not to the party nor to the state, while the police fell under the command of the SS and did the party's bidding, ignoring crimes committed by Nazis and stamping down on behaviour that would not be considered criminal in a free society. But it was the Gestapo which, although small in number, came to epitomise the Nazi totalitarian state. Led by Reinhard Heydrich, they were ruthless in pursuing their role. The Gestapo spied on people, tapping telephones and opening mail. The Gestapo would also torture those arrested in order to get more information. They were helped by a vast network of informers, some within a formal network, for example the block wardens, but many more from amongst ordinary Germans. Many arrests resulted not from the Gestapo's investigations, but from Germans informing on their own workmates, their neighbours, even their own families. Better to inform on someone than be the cause of suspicion yourself. So although there was the fearful SS-SD Gestapo, there was also a strong element of self-policing, even in the larger towns and cities. More of this in another slide. In dealing with opponents of the regime, Hitler made clear that there was no need for judicial proceedings, investigation and trial. The judgment of the Gestapo or the SS was sufficient for both proof of guilt as well as decisions regarding punishment, that is, imprisonment or execution. He wanted a ruthless organisation, unrestrained by law, and with the SS, SD, Gestapo, that's exactly what he got. The judiciary was brought under Nazi control when judges were required to join the National Socialist League for the Maintenance of Law and take an oath of loyalty to Hitler. If they didn't, and joining the League meant that they would be bound to uphold Nazi principles in court, they would be forced to resign, Some judges were removed anyway. A German lawyers' front was also formed, which meant that lawyers, whether for the prosecution or the defence, were also bound to uphold Nazi views. In 1934, a new People's Court was established. It tried all cases of treason. Judges whose loyalty to the Nazi movement was not in doubt were selected for the new court. Even so, Hitler would sometimes alter sentences if he thought they'd been too lenient. Now, it's fascinating how Hitler came to be the chief arbiter of what was legal and what was not. And of course, I explain this in my ebook on the Nazis' control of Germany, but it'd be too much for a presentation like this. But take it as read, Hitler had become the law. And the Nazis worked on the principle that however they interpreted what was right and what was not, made what they did right. For the German people, what mattered was that if a Nazi-controlled court says you've done wrong, then you are guilty of doing wrong. Or if you were arrested, convicted and punished by the Gestapo or the SS, then as they are acting on behalf of Hitler and the national community, their actions, and so your arrest, conviction and punishment are entirely justified. So best not to cross them. Concentration camps were quickly set up. It's been estimated that by 1939, the courts had sentenced over 200,000 people for political crimes. And in the life of Nazi Germany, something like 3 million people were held at one time or another in prisons or camps for some kind of offence. Many were only held for a few days, questioned, maybe tortured, with the aim being to re-educate them to Nazism, or else leave them so terrified that they wouldn't oppose the regime. Others, however, spent years in the camps. Some were even forced into virtual slave labour, whilst large numbers were executed. Discipline and conditions in general were extremely harsh. The Nazis divided every town and city into small blocks with block wardens who would visit neighbours, reminding them of what the Nazi Party stood for, defending its policies, and reminding them too of their duties. The block warden would act as the party's eyes and ears, reporting back to the party whenever necessary. They wrote reports on the political reliability of their neighbours, so that something as slight as failing to fly a Nazi flag on a day of celebration, or if the children hadn't joined the Hitler Youth or weren't attending, could cast a cloud of doubt over a person. This might not lead to immediate arrest, but it would raise suspicion, which might later lead to closer scrutiny. And it could mean that a person didn't get better housing, didn't get a job, or else didn't get promotion. Everyone was encouraged to report anti-Nazi talk and activities. As I've said, there were informers in the workplace. People were encouraged to report on their neighbours. Husbands were even encouraged to report on their wives, and vice versa. Children on their parents or their teachers. Loyal members of the Hitler Youth were particularly enthusiastic in doing this. In this way, nobody could be sure who they could trust, and nobody could reveal themselves as being critical of the regime. People were left isolated, unable to join with others, and so were not a danger to the regime. Control went to the very basic level of greeting friends and acquaintances. The German greeting, the Heil Hitler, quickly became the expected form of greeting. At one and the same time, it served to submit the individual to the Nazi movement, publicly and repeatedly, and to identify, again publicly, those who wouldn't submit themselves. Now I hope that this has been useful for you. I'll look at propaganda and how we might assess the effectiveness of Nazi control in other presentations. For now, though, I must, as always, thank you for listening. But before I go, let me say that as well as my ebooks on Amazon, I also have comprehensive revision guides that you might want to check out. I say this as I'm recording this presentation at a time in which exams are not that far away. Anyway, whether you're near or far from those exams, good luck with your studies. Cheers.